My name is Banthiya and you are watching Banthiya's Training and Consultancy. Today we are going to start with quant section. In this, the most basic topic is percentages. So today we are going to look at basics of percentage. Now, I have seen many students doing one error while preparing for quant. They tend to mug up all the questions and all the options and all the formulae. And I want you to ensure that you are not ratifying all the questions or options or even the formulae for that sake. The more important thing in competitive examination, to crack competitive examinations, is to understand the basic concepts and where the formulae come in and why do they come in as they come in. So we will keep the same focus while we prepare. Now, before doing that, let's understand one thing. The basics you must know other than basic arithmetic operations and functions. And I know that many of you are not very comfortable with arithmetic operations and functions. So I will be making a special video on that as well later on. But before that, you need to know multiplication tables up to 15 bare minimum. You need to know squares up to 25 and cubes up to 15. And these are all bare minimum. Now, what's the use of this? Once you know all the three things, you will be comfortable with all the numbers. And as you are comfortable with the numbers, it becomes very easy for you to solve the questions. And the numbers will be comfortably visible to you in the options as well. And this will help you eliminate many of the options immediately. Now, let's start with the chapter. So in this chapter, let's understand what percentage basically is. Any value expressed on a base of 100 or over a base of 100 is called percentage. Now, anything on 100 is percentage. Why do we need percentage? Now, let's assume that I have scored 500 marks out of 1000 marks and you have scored 500 marks out of 800 marks. Then this comparison can be only done when we bring it to the same base. The comparison base should be the same, and here is where percentages come in. So percentages are very important and integral part of our day-to-day being. Now, by a certain percent, we mean that many hundreds. Cent means 100 of a dollar. So 100 cents equals to $1. So percentages per cent. That is how many hundreds. Now it is represented by this mark, that is percentage mark, and cents represent the base 100. We already know this. To express x percent as a fraction, we have x percent equals to x by 100. And yes, this is a very important expression that we use while solving. So understand and just keep this in mind. Understanding the base on which change is happening is very important. And if you understand only this sentence in the entire chapter, you are through with this entire chapter. Understanding the base on which change is happening is very important. Many of the students I have seen making error while choosing the base on which they are calculating the percentage and hence getting a wrong answer to the question given. Now, before we begin, let's understand that you need to also memorize this. That is 1 by 2 is basically when you convert it to percentage, it becomes 50%. 1 by 3 is 33.33%. Similarly, 1 by 6 is 16.66%. And this you have to remember up to 1 by 20. What this will do is, it will enhance your speed of calculation in your competitive exams. Even if you don't memorize this, it will waste around 30 to 40 seconds of your time calculating this. And if you memorize this, you are again in the advantage position. So please memorize this as well. Now the first important concept is, if a certain value p increases by x percent, then the increased value becomes 100 plus x percent of p. Now basically what the statement is trying to say is, the initial value is obviously 100%, and if we increase x percent on it, it becomes 100 plus x percent of p. Similarly, if we decrease it by x percent, then the initial value was 100%, and when we reduce it by x, then 100 minus x percent of p is the decreased value. It's common sense, but it's very important in this chapter. Now, let's understand by practicing some questions. Evaluate first question and second question. I want you to pause this video right now and solve this. Now let's see the solution. So the first question is 70% of 320 plus 45% of 240. Here you can write 70 by 100, or you can also write 0.70. One and the same thing. So 0.7 into 320 plus 0.45 into 240 equals to 224 plus 108, which will give you 332. And that's very simple, and this is the most basic question that can be asked to you in any given examination. Second, 16 2 by 3% of 600 grams and 33 1 by 3% of 180 grams. Now, many of you are not comfortable for converting the partial fractions into whole fractions or whole fractions into partial fractions. And as I have already stated that we will be making a separate video explaining these concepts elaborately. So if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon. Now let's see the solution. So first, converting partial fractions into whole fractions, we get 50 by 3% of 600 grams minus 100 by 3% of 180 grams. Now since 16 by 2 by 3 equals to, now generally partial fractions are considered as 16 2 by 3 equals to 16 plus 2 by 3, getting the base common, that is 16 into 3 plus 2 by 3, it becomes 50 by 3. And similarly we have done this with 33 1 by 3%. Now just solving it, we get 50 by 300 into 600 minus 100 by 300, 180. In the first example, if you have observed, we have used 0.7, not 7 by 100, 70 by 100. But in this question, we have kept the ratios as it is and just multiplied 100 in the denominator. So as per the question, you need to take a decision and do accordingly. So 100 minus 60 equals to 40 grams. Now the first important formula that many of the teachers will be saying you to mug up, but need not to mug up everything. So let's understand them. If A is R% more than B, obviously if A is more than B, then B is less than A. So B is less than A by this many percent. This is the formula, and many of the faculties and trainers will ask you to memorize this. But let us understand what is really happening in this formula, and then you will not need to memorize this formula. The second formula, similar formula, is if A is R% less than B, then B is more than A by this formula. Let's practice and understand. Now solve these two questions and pause this video right now. Now let's understand this formula. Now this is Tom and this is Jerry. Now Tom earns 25% more than Jerry. So Jerry is earning less than Tom by how many percent is the question. So now the actual values are not given. Let's assume that Jerry earns $100. And by simple logic, if Jerry earns $100, then Tom will earn $125. And then the percentage earned by Jerry less than that of Tom would be equals to. Now initially, with comparison to Jerry, Tom earned more 25%. But now in comparison to Tom, Jerry earns how much less is the question. So the base is changing. Initially the base was Jerry, and later on now the base changes to Tom, and hence the formula becomes 25. The difference between the two values, that is 100 and 125, is 25. In comparison to Tom, that is 125 into 100, this comes out to 20%. I hope guys that you have understood the formula and you need not to memorize it. If you have any doubts, please comment in the comment section below and ask and get your doubts cleared. Now let's solve those two questions. So the first question is, A is 20% more than B, then B is what percent less than A? Now using the formula directly, we get 16.66% less. A is 20% less than B, then B is what percent more than A? Then using the formula again, we get 25% more. And these are very simple questions. And mind you, such kind of simple questions are usually asked in many competitive exams and campus recruitment exams. Now let's understand a similar concept. If the price of commodity increases by R%, then the reduction in the consumption so as not to increase the expenditure is R divided by 100 plus R into 100%. Now, have you seen this formula? Yes. The earlier formula that we have seen is the same. So here the point is that the language can be changed anyhow. Now let's see the second example as well. If the price of the commodity decreases by R%, then increase in the consumption so as not to decrease the expenditure is. Now this is very simple, and I hope guys that you are able to understand and you need not to memorize these formulas as well. So now let's solve this question. Pause this video and solve this question immediately. So let's solve this. What should be the percentage increase in the consumption if the price of rice decreases by 20% so as not to decrease the expenditure? We don't want to increase the expenditure or decrease the expenditure. That is, should not be any change in the expenditure and the price has decreased. So we need to increase the consumption. Now, as per this formula, that is the change in the base because of the decrease. The percentage will increase. That is 25% increase in the consumption should be there. Now let's see one more formula that generally students tend to memorize. If A is X% of C and B is Y% of C. Now just understand here. If I remove percentage here, then the base of comparison, that is A is X% of B, A is X% of C and B is Y% of C. Here C is common. So basically here what we are doing is A equals to X by Y into 100% of B. When we want to make it into A and B, so we want to compare A, that's the reason it's put on the numerator with the base of Y into 100%. So that's pretty easy. Now let's practice and understand. So evaluate this question. I hope guys that you are getting to the answer. If not, let's see the solution. Now using the formula A equals to X by Y into 100% of B, where X equals to 20 and Y equals to 25 already given in the question. Now solving this we get A is 80% of B. Now let's understand the final concepts of this chapter. If the percentage population of a town or value of an item B, P, and the population or the value of an item changes in R% per annum, that is, it might be the inflation or decrease or basically the growth or decrease in the population or value of the item. Depreciation is a similar concept of decrease in the value of a commodity across the years by a certain percent. So these are the formula, and yes, these are the formula of compound interest and present worth. So we will talk more about this. So right now just remember this formula, that is population after n years equals to P in bracket 1 plus R by 100 raised to n, where n is the number of years, and population or value of an item n years ago, that is we want to get into the past. So P is the present value and divided by that common factor 1 plus R by 100 raised to n will give you the present, the n years ago population or the value of the commodity. Now let's solve one example on it. I hope guys that you are able to solve this question as well. If not, let's see the solution. The population of a town increases 10% annually. If its present population is 1,20,000, what will be its population in 2 years time? That is 2 years after. So basically using the formula we get population after 2 years equals to 1,20,000 in bracket 1 plus the percentage given is 10 by 100 raised to 2 years, that is n. So by solving it we get 1,45,200. I hope guys that you have understood all the concepts of this chapter, that is percentage. Now here the most important thing again I am repeating is understanding the base on which the change is occurring. If you haven't yet understood, please revise this video, and if still you are unable to get it, please comment in the comment section so that I can simplify it more for you. Now I hope that you have understood everything. Here the basic concepts of this chapter ends, please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to press the bell icon and comment in the comment section below if you have any doubts or issues. In the coming sessions, we will be practicing more questions and seeing how to deal with the chapter percentage in competitive exams, use of options, understanding the questions, simplifying questions, and in some cases, just to deal with it. So let's see that in the coming sessions. So stay tuned and thank you.